passion, but I am passionate about farming, and that is why I'm here. But I also am a member of the Inspire Synergy, and that is what brings me here. And each one of us here who has come, I am sure is expectant. And before we start, I'll just like to request that we say a short prayer and just dedicate this time to God, and we engage. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. Thank you that you've given us this day to be able to talk a lot about things that would be very relevant for your kingdom. And we pray that even as we continue this afternoon, that you will be able to speak through to each one of us, be able to encourage us, be able to enable us to find a place to be relevant for your kingdom. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen. And just as we received that, we were able to talk about what Inspire Synergy is. And just for emphasis, each one of us here is relevant in the marketplace. And we have a place in the marketplace. And Inspire is really focusing on raising a generation of excellent leaders in the marketplace. We shouldn't worry about where we are starting from, because everywhere we are is a good place to start. As long as God has ordained for you to be there, that is the perfect place to start. In the morning, we were talking about real estate, and our focus throughout this day is accelerating diaspora partnerships. And there was a lot of conversation about real estate, and everything that was shared here was very impactful. I would like to appreciate our speakers who were able to share. That is Elder Stephen Ochola. We had Irene Luguza. We were able to hear from Reverend, and I think that was very impactful. And we will carry on this afternoon without wasting a lot of time to talk a lot about agricultural landscape. And we look at the gaps and the opportunities that are there for us. So we're going to have about 2 presentations. Our first presentation will be by Mr. Paul Walube and Ms. Grace Abalo, who will be sharing with us a lot about how they're engaging on the agricultural landscape. I'll just quickly introduce both of them. Mr. Paul Walube is an agribusiness practitioner, and he's based in Mayuge. Those of us who come from the eastern part of Uganda, that's where Mayuge is found, to just before you get not far from Kampala. That should be about 2 hours away from here. And that's where we find Mayuge. He is the proprietor of a company called The Promised Land, and he will tell us a little bit more about that. Started about last year, but you'll be amazed at the leaps and bounds over time. I think you can see a little bit of what is displayed here, and he will be sharing with us about how he has stretched through on the agricultural landscape in that area. And he is joined by Dr. Grace Abalo. She is a founder of Ghana Agro Limited. She has over 20 years experience as one of the East Africa's leading maize breeders. She has been instrumental in the Water Efficient Maize for Africa program that has contributed to the release of over 12 hybrids. She has detailed knowledge in all stages of seed production and has strong links to the industry players. Dr. Grace Abalo is one of the sought-after seed technologists in Uganda. She has a wealth of experience in seed production, post-harvest handling and seed testing. Uncompromised seed quality is core to her business, and through her years of experience and knowledge, she has been able to deliver on this for her clients. I was amazed when I met her to discover that we actually have people on the scene who are specialized in generating quality seeds for the farmers. And I think that was very excellent. Seed companies, agro-processors, aggregators, that is her wealth of experience, as well as experience in leadership training and capacity building. And so those are the 2 who we are going to have. at the start, and they'll be telling us about how they have taken advantage of that landscape and how we can be able to engage together with them on that scene. So welcome with me, Mr. Paul Walube, and then we'll have Ms. Grace Abalo to please come and take to the front. Welcome.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my name is Grace Abalo. I'm a scientist. Liz is my neighbor. She forgot that very important piece of information. We are next door neighbors. Yes. Today, actually, Paul will be the one doing the main pitch, but I just want to maybe give you a little bit more about what we do. As Liz mentioned, I'm the founder of Ghana Agro. We are a group of 5. This Ghana stands for our initials, and we are basically in the seed industry. I will not have a presentation because I've decided to dedicate this to Paul. Paul was also my classmate. When I was approached by Benjamin, I realized that I didn't have the time. And I'm like, what an opportunity. It shouldn't go to waste. We have linkages. We work with people. We have colleagues who are probably more prepared than I was at the time. So I contacted yet another who also right now is in Noya, and I was also up country. And so Paul became the one who was immediately available. But in the seed sector itself, today, Uganda, we have 42 seed companies who have no farms. They only rely on contract production. And as a company, for us, we do contract supplies. But majorly, we're dealing with the hybrid seeds, which technology is lacking in most of the companies. Probably one or may not even today be standing. They can't produce. So as Ghana Agro, we came to meet that gap so that they would get the kind of quality that the market desires. If you are in Uganda, then you would already be knowing what I'm talking about. We do not have quality seeds. So most of the quality ones come from Kenya, come from Zambia. Zambia is the hub for seed production in Africa. All the Southern Africans, they produce seed in Zambia, and then it goes to Kenya. By the time it reaches Uganda, believe me, the price would have kind of been multiplied 10 times. What you would produce here at 10,000 Uganda shillings will reach here at 37,000 Uganda shillings when they bring it. So which farmer can buy? Today we are still giving the seeds for free. The government is trying to give seeds for free because the farmers can't afford it. So that's what Ghana is here to bridge. But for today, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just let Paul do the pitching, and it is on cocoa. We just decided to zero on one. I asked Benjamin again and again, who are we interfacing with? Who are they? What do they want to know? Is it just general, or they want something that they'll go back with? So I've decided that let us hear more today on the cocoa business. But the seed industry is a huge industry that is still, I would call it virgin. It hasn't been explored because of the level of economic development we are at. But given the future, we can't, because we remain the food basket for the region and actually the continent today. We are the people who perhaps have some little bit of reliable rainfall in some areas, but the rest of the continents continue to experience drought after drought after drought after drought, leaving Uganda to, even when they shout, our maize has aflatoxin, they still come for it because we can produce something. So we want to make it better. And I am a Christian. I want to do things the right way. So welcome with me, Paul. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have been introduced. It's my name. From Eastern Uganda. Our headquarters are in Iganga. along Jinja Malaba Highway. I'm a proprietor of a company called Promised Land Education and Agricultural Development, Uganda Limited. The name seems to be long, but at that time in 2003, when it was being opened, there was an era of acronyms. So there was a company called Pride, and Pride is an English word, but at the same time, it was an acronym. Then for me, I also thought of an acronym, PLEAD. So Promised Land Education and Agricultural Development Uganda Limited is PLEAD. But now over time, it just changed to Promised Land Uganda. Now, Promised Land Uganda, having been opened in 2003, we started with advisory services. That was in response to government programs. That was NADS, which began in 2001. So we have been offering advisory services to smallholder farmers in Eastern Uganda. Later, we shifted from just mere advisory service to input supply to still our farmers until 2011, when we moved from that type of service delivery, nursery work, focusing on coffee value chain. So as we were working on coffee value chain, cocoa is close to coffee. So we later picked interest in cocoa. I work with the public sector as well as private sector. So incidentally, I'm a public-private sector extension worker. And I looked at this as an advanced extension service. So as I was interacting with farmers in my Mayuge district, I realized there is a very precious commodity crop called cocoa. So when I interacted with them, I realized it is a crop which could get people out of poverty, but these people had not been getting extension service from government. So thereon, we immediately picked it on. Now, we still offer the advisory, and we've been trading in cocoa beans until 2021, when we went into value addition. So the rest of the story is on cocoa processing. The summary of our work is definitely access to finished cocoa products. Like these are the samples I've brought in response to smallholder farmers down there in terms of providing market for their produce and products. We support them with advisory services still, and we want to provide a reliable market access for cocoa beans. We started cocoa bean trade in 2016. We've been buying it from smallholder farmers and trading it with Kampala off-takers, notably African trade winds. Then there is Bundikao and others. The last service we've been doing, that one began in 2004, is farmer institutional development, and we have so many farmer groups there, including cooperatives which are now in cocoa. Now, which problem are we solving? I've already somewhere indicated that poverty, incidentally in Uganda, Eastern Uganda is the poorest, and it's my home place. We cannot run away from it. So we just decided to look at which opportunities are available around us and how do we transform them into a fortune, not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the children of God. So we are trying to promote what farmers produce by adding value and be able to market it to a wider market, both domestically and internationally. Cocoa is not the only one. You have heard from Dr. Abal. Uganda is named differently by different people, the way they benefit from it. For us, we have called it the Promised Land. Some people call it the Pearl of Africa. That is the national level. There are those who are saying gifted by nature. All that shows you that Uganda has a lot of endowments, which if we get the support we need, we can make Uganda a donor country. Because I've heard that Uganda one time donated to the UK in the 60s out of the proceeds from sale of cotton. That has since changed. Uganda is now poor, but these resources are still there. So we now thought of all the value chains. In Mayuge, we have the biggest avocado nucleus farm, sitting on over 2,500 acres in Mayuge. But that one is a nucleus farm, which nucleus farm is yet to partner with the surrounding community so that other people go into that value chain. For me to be able to reach here, like she has given you the background, there are partners we've been working with. The first one was Swiss Contact Uganda. Swiss Contact is a Swiss-founded organization which supports private SMEs not only in Uganda but globally, do business in the real sense. So we got some support from them. Then after that, we got some support from private sector foundation. We have been building on how do we perfect the cocoa value chain until 2019, when we got a European Union funded markup project. Markup is Market Access Upgrade Program. So through that, we've gotten the technical capacity building, which has enabled us to reach here. But this very recent one, in terms of who are the people behind us, there is another project called ESCO. ECOS. ECOS is Enhancing Competitiveness of SMEs project. And it feeds into a bigger project, which is E4D, that is Employment Skills for Development in Africa. So when you Google, you'll see all of that, but they've been adding, or we've been scooping something to make us what we are doing. So out of all of that, we did our analysis and got convinced that cocoa will enable us to take the children of God to the promised land. Okay? You cannot go to the promised land when you are sick, neither can you go there when you are very poor. Cocoa will be able to deliver all of that, and the children of God will be very happy all throughout. So we did not focus on avocado. We are saying avocado is good, but it's not easy to store. And in Uganda, most of our farmers are smallholder farmers with an average land holding of about 1.5 acres. So they cannot produce it in bulk so that they can export to the big lucrative markets across the border. But for cocoa, people can grow cocoa on 1/2 acre, 1 acre, and beyond. We have a range of farmers who are growing it. Now, cocoa is a multifunctional product. It is a beverage. You can put cocoa powder on your hot milk, on your hot water, and add what else you may need and enjoy. Cocoa is also a medicinal product. If you go into details, you realize that most of the drugs which we take have a very big component of cocoa. Except that for us as Africans, I think it took us long to know that. Incidentally, for me, also by training, I have a BSc in agriculture, which I studied with Dr. Abal. Thereafter, I went into further studies and studied a master's in agribusiness management. And some 3 years recently, I enrolled for a PhD in agriculture and rural innovation because I'm in the rural setting, and this is part of the innovation that I'm trying to practicate that PhD that is being offered by Makerere University. I had suspended the academic side and went into the practical part. And when this product came to the market, in myself, I thought I'd graduated, because it's not about the theory, it is about what you bring to the market. All right. So in terms of pricing, I've already mentioned, an avocado farmer might need to sell 3 kilograms to be able to get 1 kilo of beans, dry beans, not this processed one. If it is processed ones, I'm telling you, there will be more than 10, because a kilo right now, as per our pricing here, is not less than 60,000. So cocoa is a very good value chain. Which market do we target? I've already told you that we have 2 markets, domestic and foreign market. But because of limited resources, when we started manufacturing this product, we have been looking at the domestic market, and the domestic market is dissected into hotels and restaurants. They can use it as a beverage. We also have government departments and agencies. Many of them, through their tendering system, we know very, very soon we shall be getting those tenders. And individual buyers. This product, because of the pricing, it has not been so close to the rural farmer, the rural community. But when you go to institutions, they will make their orders instantly. I recently went to Uganda Revenue Authority and introduced the product. I was surprised. All the packets I went with, they were bought, and they had even to pay me to go and get more for them, because they have the capacity. But they are not the only ones with capacity. So when we say ministries, departments, and agencies, we know that is a market. But out of that market, it can be expanded to other levels. Number 3 is the cross-border markets. We spent the whole of the COVID period, when we are being trained by the Markup Project, on how to access the global market. We went through supply and logistics. We went through issues to do with quality and certification of suppliers and so on. So from there, we were inspired that we can export this product. We have not lost that hope. Although right now, we haven't exported. However, when we went for an exhibition, like you will see in the other subsequent slides, last year from 8th to 18th December 2022, we exhibited this product for 10 days, and South Sudan already expressed interest in taking our product. The Kenyans also expressed interest by just feeling the smell of this product. They said, this is the perfect product we want. So very soon, if we get the support we need, we will just be now contemplating how much do we leave for the domestic market. Otherwise, the market is there. Last, supermarkets and individual buyers. There are very, very many people who want to buy this product because of its multiple product benefits. So in so doing, the solution that we want to provide, not only to Busoga cocoa farmers, but Uganda at large, is to add value to what they have been producing and exporting without formal processing. And that is in response to the president's call for increasing value addition and creating employment. The youthful Uganda, the way you know it. We shall do so by building a cocoa processing factory so that we don't just sell beans, but we can sell processed cocoa. When you look at, then another thing is something to do with the cocoa nurseries. The experience we have had over the just 1 year shows us that the demand for this cocoa is so big. And right now we don't have enough producers. It is because maybe some other people had not known what cocoa is and how better it is. The first time I launched it, it was like a launch. We were at Golf Course Hotel. It was in a small park among so many products. And the moderator did not recognize that our product was there. But I had to tell him that, please, I wrote to them a note. So there is a product you haven't mentioned. It is there on your table. He said, oh, sorry, it's there. Then I said, well, no problem. We expected that feedback and we are working on it. Today, comparing this and that, definitely you can't fail to see our product. Okay? So we will provide nursery services and we provide seedlings at an affordable cost. After the seedlings, we provide advisory. That is the solution we talked about in summer at the beginning. Then market information is very important. We still provide it. And the very big one is definitely this processing. Why has this piqued attention of our farmers? I will tell you. But the model we are using is still domestically focused. That's why we are saying we manufacture them the way they are, and then we sell the seedlings to farmers within. Although in 2015, somebody was telling me that it is also possible to export seedlings to South Sudan. We haven't ventured into that, but I know when we reach there, you never know with the time. We might not sell the physical seeds, but the knowledge, the production of quality seedlings. The company also sells cocoa beans to off-takers in Kampala. Although of recent, we are increasingly not thinking about that type of arrangement, unless it will be export. For export, we know that market is still there and we cannot rely on processing alone. So we will do both. The marketable products generate own revenue to finance operating expenses in one way. Then the pricing strategy is that for the time being, we want to be the low-cost leaders, but not only as a standalone. We are still using a penetration scaling pricing strategy so that people get to know about our product. We realized not so many people know about cocoa, yet it is a very good product. So generally speaking, that is the model. Here we see down here, these are partner producer groups, which can be farmer groups in their real sense. But for us, over the last 3 years, we have built primary cooperative societies focused on cocoa. They are not so active, but at least now they are body corporate. They just need to be reactivated or to be activated. Why? Simply because we are working in a liberalized market. In a liberalized market, this liberalization began in 1993, but before that, it was a different story. So based on what the farmers went through before liberalization, they don't release their product, their cocoa beans, unless you have paid them. So out of that, the cooperatives are there. The individual farmers have their cocoa beans, but they will still ask you to first deposit money in their cooperative before they can reserve those beans for the company. So out of that, we said, okay, no problem. We shall one time get a savior for you so that you realize why you need to work together. So when these people work together, after we have offered them extension services, they will bulk the cocoa beans, and for us, get these cocoa beans from the warehouse and begin processing a fraction as well as exporting the balance. So that is the model. I hope it will make this story a bit more understandable. So the rest of what I've already communicated is about these products. Here I'm telling you that to validate our model, we've tried it in March 2022. The demand was there, but some people were saying, are you not traditional healers? This bottle looks like it's not really a valuable product. We said, okay, if you think it's, by the way, somebody had already opened it, you can feel the taste or the smell rather. When we went to the exhibition, there were 2 tests which we gave customers to feel, especially the Kenyans. I learned just a technical language, a technical word in Swahili, lamba, meaning your tongue to taste. So it was just smelling and licking it. And they said, well, this is the cocoa we want. And that is why we are calling it organic. Now, out of that, we hit in those small packs. Then, due to the unique features which I've just explained, people demanded for bigger packages. And today we have a 200-gram package. And still look at it. We also have a 500-gram pack and a 100-gram pack, which I've not carried here, because what we produce is what goes. But that is the response we had. One thing I've not said, I'm also a lecturer at Ndeja University, and I lecture comparatives and agribusiness. And out of the experience from there, I realized that the first principle of managing quality is to be customer focused, knowing what they want and doing it the way they have told you to do it. If you think for them, you go off. So they wanted bigger packs, and they are there. Whoever tests the smaller one, they come back and say, don't you have a bigger one? So when they are there, you say, no, we have the 500 gram. How much? And they pay. Okay. Then there are others who said, well, this product, you are talking about that price, but what does it really help in the body if I take it? Why don't I take tea or something else? We said, now, what can we do? That is the transition. We said, okay, now what we can do, let's try to add some explanatory information about what cocoa does. If you decide to become a regular consumer of cocoa, irrespective of the age. So we put there a few benefits of cocoa, not that we went to the laboratory, but I remember what the president said sometime back, maybe like 12 years ago, that the problem with Africans is that we want to pretend that we are very busy. Even what is already well researched, we go back and say we are also researching, instead of copying and applying to solve the problem. So when you go to the net and ask what are the benefits of cocoa, you will be surprised that you just cheated yourself for having not started consuming it. I don't know how many years ago. So that picture is, we were now telling the public, the East African community, that here we are. We have just brought one product for you. It's cereal cocoa. People are good at asking, what else do you have, before they have finished the first one you have brought, and not even knowing fully what it is. We said we have only one product, it's cereal cocoa, and it worked. This young man was part of the exhibition team, and is my firstborn. He's finishing his first degree in May, other things remaining constant. Why is he active in that? It's because we attended with him an online training by another related organization like Inspire. That organization is called TBN, Transformation of Business Network. I think it's based in Nairobi. So as they were training us to do what it needs, including proper planning, forecasting, financial management, the challenge was, when shall we have companies that can last beyond their founders in Africa? Because they have seen it happen in Asia. The example they were giving was Tata Motors, that it has been there for 150 years. So this guy has since piqued interest. Even today, if it wasn't that somebody said attendance is by invite only, we would be here listening carefully. Why? Because I'm now 50. For him, it's just 21. He needs to know it right from the beginning. That's when he can be fully in charge. So we were with him, and it worked very well for us. So we come here with this goal. We want to increase the volume of production, because I've told you this product is wanted. Not only in Uganda, but even across. I've already told you, the people who have trained us to produce what the little so far, it was the European Union. And when you read through the whole text, they were not telling us to process. They were telling us to make sure the production is high, harvest ripe pods, ferment them very well, dry them on a clean environment, pack them and bring them to Europe. So that is what they told us. And I have a full project proposal there, which was not funded, but it was said to be a very good project proposal. However, in Uganda here, we have so many trainers and advisors, whether they went to school or not. One of them is called Jose Camillo. No, not Jose Camillo, but he's also an advisor. But the one I wanted to mention is this younger man called Mainja. Said, somebody who will prosper, even when the challenges are so many, very quickly he will see an opportunity. The opportunity we saw in what we are doing is lack of enough capital. Transport the very good quality beans to Europe. And we said, okay, let's forget that and just process the little beans we get and sell them to the community here. That is the opportunity which we are now exploiting. So, but we have not said we don't want to export. We will export. And European Union wants its beans. Why? I'm told in West Africa, one of the leading producers, the president there said, no, we are tired of being donors. If you want our beans, better come and settle here. We work together with you. We shall not give you our beans. So that is almost the same with what we are talking about here. We are looking for people who have their money, come and be part of us. We produce what we want so that our people can also have access here. And then the surplus of the processed still goes to wherever it wants to go. It can go to China because they said China has just learned that there's a commodity called chocolate. And the appetite is so high since 20, maybe 12 and beyond, and right now. It can go to Malaysia. In Malaysia, the issue was some investors went there, established their factories. Then after they established their factories, something went on wrong in the fields. And now they don't have enough supply of the beans. They have to import, be able to sustain their factories. So that is the vision we have. So Those of you who have looked at what I inscribed behind there, it is that. And it's for real. When I was introducing that bottle to the other people, I told them this one is synonymous to a drug shop in your home, your family. That bottle you have seen, because of the various ways in which it works. So we have a small team, which is not something that is surprising. Mostly composed of some younger relatives. I've already told you about the younger man. There are others. Even my daughter was part of the exhibition team at Kololo last year. Then, in response to the call out of markup trainings, and more recently, ECOS project, we said, okay, those who are lucky to have joined because they are relatives, we shall build their capacity. Going forward, we want non-relatives to be part of us, to follow our standard operating procedure. We already have an IMS for our company, which we are just now practicating, putting it on the ground while improving it in response to unforeseen challenges of formal management. It is just in a soft form on every team member's smartphone. That one, we know it has its advantages. So that team, have not expanded it, but of course the documentation is there and the people are also there. I came with 12 of them. Dr. Bala has seen them, and I told her that, you know what, those younger people are part of what we are going to talk about. And I feel cheated if they don't watch. Because what is happening, it was as if it is characteristic of the cocoa value chain. If you attended a typical meeting of cocoa farmers in Uganda here, you will be surprised that most of them will be above 40. You don't find younger people. Yet it is the younger people who want not only the chocolate, but the employment. Okay, so to expand and formalize and make this value chain the best of those chains that can employ, those we need around that's 1.4 for the start, because there are a lot of things that we need to do that we ourselves are even not yet aware of. So because of that, we made just a simple estimate, but I know together with the doctor, if there are people who are interested in what we are doing, we can discuss further and scale up or down of that initial ask. We have also done some investment as poor Ugandans of Eastern Uganda and beyond. It's not that we don't have anything, and it is out of that we have something. So the impact is enormous. We will create jobs. We will keep a healthy population. The government will get tax. And on issues of tax, that is the last slide. Increase the tax revenue from export. I was recently, after they asked for all the packs I had, I shared with them on issues of tax. And they told me, by the way, you can develop this into a very big business. And I said, but you know, issues of tax, you people are always on the neck of investors. I said, no, there's an incentive for investors who can invest outside Kampala. If they can build a very good factory outside Greater Kampala, that is 50 kilometers from the state center. And incidentally for us, we are 120. We are 120 kilometers away from Kampala. They get a tax holiday of 10 years. But that is if the production is mainly for export, which is what I've already said. So, ladies and gentlemen, I might have spent a lot of time, but I wanted to paint a picture about cocoa. Cocoa came here in 1901, but we have just learned about it in 2000. It had been coffee. If it is 100% investment, coffee takes maybe 96. If not, it can take 75 and the tea takes maybe 20 and some 2% for cocoa. So we need cocoa to be funded. I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Paul, and well done. I'm sure each one of you has been able to look at these products. Well done. Thank you, Dr. Grace. And we believe that a lot of this initiative will not go down to waste because we have very vibrant people who are not about to give up on this very, very significant idea that we have as a country, the promised land, gifted by nature, pearl of Africa. I love that. I know we are racing so fast with our time. Our audience online, we recognize you. Thank you for logging on. Please stay with us. We're going to have another presenter. And if you have any questions for the team that presented earlier on cocoa, kindly type it in the chat. There was quite a lot that was mentioned about the possibilities there, the liberalized market, the trade and investment policies, the tax investments, and a lot of potential that, that they have identified. Please type your question in the chat and we'll be able to take them shortly after our next speaker. So stay with us for still a few more, maybe some few more minutes of your time. So we're going to have a next speaker. I hope I say the name right. This is Reverend Laide. Have I got it right? Oh, Pastor Laide. All right. Pastor Laide Ghana. Pastor Laide Ghana is an economics graduate with an advanced postgraduate degree from Brunel University and MBA from Warwick Business School. Those are all in the UK. He's an associate fellow currently of the Higher Education Agency in the UK, a doctorate researcher with Aston University in the UK, where he's working on policy and industry research that examines the impact of innovation for SMEs and economic development in the sub-Saharan Africa. Laide brings over 22 years of experience in investment banking and commodity trading from various global banks and trading banks like Barclays, Swiss, BNP Paribas at senior levels. He has also held senior positions in various global firms, and his work experience spans across Africa and the Middle East and Europe. He's grown to become a consummate financial services practitioner. He has carved a solid niche as a solution provider to complex problems faced by operators across various segments in the marketplace. He's a believer in the ability and potential of Africa and Africans to free themselves from the shackles of underdevelopment. He's a co-founder, he has co-founded a commodity platform called Commodity Port Group. This is an African-focused commodities and investments advisory firm. It provides small-scale operators with access to new markets, capital, and technology, poverty and empowerment interventions. Laide is a group COO of SOA Rising, and he oversees the entire global operations of SOA Rising, covering the real estate and agriculture sectors. I'm sure you listened to a caption of what SOA Rising is doing in the early hours of the day, and we are privileged to have Pastor Laide come to speak to us. Welcome.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the presentation that just went ahead from Mr. Paul Walube and Dr. Grace Abalo. It was really reassuring to hear what you guys are doing and, let us into this very interesting project you're doing. And I think when you touched on the cocoa value chain, just to quickly put it out there that, it's interesting that Africa accounts for a significant portion of the cocoa grown globally. And there's a group of companies called the G7. The G7 are the companies that make the chocolates that we eat. So when you talk of companies like Mars, like Hershey, I think Condolence is one of them. So 7 of them, very big global commodity traders and chocolate makers. And the interesting thing about this is up until very recently, and I think it was Mr. Walube that touched on it lightly, up until very recently, before the Ivory Coast government put their foot down and said, you know what, the grinding of the cocoa beans must happen here so that we capture some of the value chain. We were losing out. We were losing out so much to the extent that if you think of a bar of chocolate that is sold for maybe $1, the retained value add for the primary producers was less than 5%. That was how bad it was. And so when you talk about your project, I think you guys are onto something. You're onto something very, very great. If you can get it right, if you can hack it, it will transform this place. It will transform, not just the economy of Uganda, but, East Africa as a whole. It's massive, it's significant. So well done. You're starting baby steps, but you're doing giant things. So we really salute you. So thank you. So once again, let me just quickly pay homage to the protocol of the day for people that might be joining us online for the afternoon session and do a quick recap of, how we got here. So in the morning, we spoke about the real estate side of things. We had the different presenters, take us through the investment and regulatory and policy landscape in Uganda. We dived into a couple of case studies examining the potential layout of a number of projects in the real estate sector. And my CEO capped it off with a very prophetic insight into why this is important. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's their cause, And this afternoon, starting with the presentation from Mr. Walube and Dr. Grace Abalo, we've gone into the real estate sector. And they've, clearly provided us with some context about what they're doing in this space. So I would just, take a few more minutes of your time to talk about to talk about this from the Soil Rising angle. What is Soil Rising doing and why are we interested in this space? So just allow me bring up the presentation, and for people following online, you can track with me. Thank you. So I won't flog too much data or throw too much data at you, because I think my background in all of this is I'm an economist and also, used to be an investment banker. So it's always sensible to provide some context. The spiritual aspect has gone. So I'll just, quickly provide some highlights, economic indicators here. So we know that, I need to go back. So just from an overview, we're in Uganda, the 3rd largest economy in East Africa. GDP overall is projected to rise by 9.1 per annum over the next 5 years. Just to give you, for people that want to take a kind of medium-term outlook on things. We don't do short-term. So let's even start with the medium-term outlook before we go into the long-term. And Reverend Ashai spoke earlier in the morning about the African Union 2063 vision, of which AFTA is a key, prong of that vision, and why it's important for us to take, a very long-term view. 40 years looks like a long-term, but really when we think about it, it's not that long. If we don't take action now, what we see today and we think it is bad would only get worse. So Soar Rising's aim and objective is to get us to, first of all, start to think about those things, but also start to take the actions that makes, a change in stuff. So, from an economic perspective, GDP forecast to rise, roughly 10% per annum. Inflation rates is projected to decrease. So whilst other countries are witnessing increased inflationary pressures, it's ironic that the land of Africa, and specifically Uganda, is trending downwards when it comes to inflation, and growth in its GDP is projected to go up. There's some underlying constraints here, and also the constraints, but also the elements of strength for the country. So population has increased by 3%. And just to kind of quickly correct, so when architect Stephen Ochola, apologies there, I murdered his name, apologies. When he mentioned the figure for the population, that was as at the last census in 2014. Since then, on an annual basis, the population has been increasing by 3%. And whether we like it or not, in another 10 years or even less, it's going to cross the 60 million barrier. We don't even need to do anything. It's just the natural rate of growth. So when we talk about real estate from an urbanization perspective, and we talk about agriculture from a food security perspective, whether we like it or not, as humans procreate and bring forth new babies and new beings, we're going to need houses and we're going to need food. And if we don't take action, it would only, things can only go down if we don't take the right kind of action. The good thing, another good thing for Uganda is, unemployment rate currently 2.9 as at 2021, and is projected to reduce to under 2% in another 5 years. But we need to be careful there, because when you look at numbers and you look at stats and you look at figures, you always need to ask, what is going on here? If that reduction in unemployment is pushing people into low-wage employment, into, below kind of the threshold that allows them to break free at mass and at scale out of, that low-income bracket, then we're not really doing anything. The unemployment numbers drop, but it's not really, on a net value basis, it's not really adding much. And then, labor, so correlating to that is increase in the labor force. So unemployment drops, more people get into jobs. We're saying, it's projected to rise to, it was 18 million as at 2022. So, which is very good. It says that there are a lot of people engaged in work. The big question is, what kind of work? So just quickly moving along, and moving it quickly to the area that I'm focused on, which is agriculture. It's, continued focus at the policy level in Uganda on the agri sector. There was a national development plan called 1, and now we're the National Development Plan 2, and agriculture remains a key part of that national development plan. It's called something called the Vision 2020, and it's currently under the Ministry of Agri. So where, and agriculture's contribution at the moment is around 24%, which again, when you think about it, not a bad thing. We're saying a quarter of GDP originates from the agri sector. But then when you look at the number of people involved in the agri sector, something doesn't make sense. You have close to over 72% of the workforce involved in the agri sector and only generating less than 25%. there is a bit of a mismatch. And what this also, and when you look at it, the reason why is because a large portion of the farmers and those in the farming industry or sector are small-scale farmers. Small-scale farmers maintaining very small, holdings and with limited productivity due to a number of constraints that I'll come to in a couple of minutes. And this is based on, just our own engagement with people, the research from multinational organizations, research and data from the Ministry of Agriculture in Uganda as well. It's showing that you have this high portion producing not a lot. The productivity there is quite low. So, and that's what you're seeing. And also, out of the portion involved in the agri sector, you have a high proportion of women and young people. So one of the good things Uganda has is a very young labor force. A large chunk of them are in the agri sector, but really operating from that subsistence perspective. And that begins to give you a sense of where the challenges are. Another key thing that is beginning to come up is weather and climate-related impacts. So over the couple of years, I think Uganda is beginning to feel the impact of, and this is generally globally, but for an economy that is that is very reliant on the agri sector, it's beginning to feel some impact from weather and climate-related issues. So I just wanted to give you, some context to, what we found before I go into what are we doing about it. Again, this is just the charts I was showing you earlier. The economy is projected to grow, not just because of the agri sector. A number of other things are happening. There's, services beginning to come back, tourism starting to pick up again, discovery of oil and the relationship with Tanzania to develop that. All of those are spurring underlying factors. But the truth, what we cannot get away from is a large chunk of the population is still reliant on the land, right? So when you look at this, I'm sure you won't be able to see the graph in the room, but what is just showing you is that between 2023 and that there's something that needs to be addressed. Let's start, doing the work and understanding these things better. So we know that, from our research and engagement, what we're beginning to see is that there are problems around access to funding and expertise. And I think the earlier presenters mentioned that. One of the reasons why the contribution of agriculture to the national GDP and the net value add is that low is also driven by lack of mechanization. You have lots of small farm holders, even though there's now this concept of, aggregation. So you have a layer above those smallholders in the value chain where you find people, combining them into clusters and cooperatives and aggregating their produce and trying to process it. But what we're also seeing is that some of that aggregation is still very manual. So there's really, all you're doing is rolling the problems and making it bigger, but not really solving anything. Yeah? Then in terms of produce, we have what is termed as post-harvest losses. Post-harvest losses refers to, so you have the pre-farming, the farming, and harvest and storage. Due to lack of adequate, very limited, and there are only very few people that have gone into that phase of, let's really understand how we address storage and wastage in what we produce. So there is all of the issues around storage and post-harvest, handling that is not dealt with at all. So we have a lot of waste. And that explains why you have such high numbers of people in the sector and very little productivity or contribution to the national GDP. Then the other challenge, and it was interesting, I keep going back to the earlier presentation, is access to markets and linkages. So at the moment, a lot of the production, even when it makes it out into the export market, what the data is showing us is there's limited value add, and most of the output is going to a particular region, where to us, what it tells us is this really working? Because if it's working, that value add should come back into this space. So one of the problems we're seeing is about, what are we accessing the right markets? Our own, what part of our thesis is that there's such a big market in the EAC, first of all, in the East African region. And when you extend it to COMESA as a next level, there's ample markets to develop for Uganda there, as opposed to trying to just focus on going to the UAE or to Europe, right? And sometimes we lose sight of what is within our immediate reach because the size of those markets are significant, that if you, really develop the expertise and the know-how to access those, you might actually arrive at a much better value add than where we currently are. So those are the challenges we're seeing and what the data is telling us. So I think I'll now start to get into the main part of my presentation. So you just need to bear with me for a few more minutes. So what's SOA Rising really trying to do here? We've talked about where the economic situation is. We've talked about the challenges. We can't just leave it there. So SOA Rising, as mentioned earlier, is we're into the business of land, but with a slightly different aspect to it. We look at land as, the stuff that needs to be, as a resource, that needs to be addressed to provide and produce, real estate, smart cities, smart towns, smart communities that are built, to ensure that people have good living homes and, can break free from any economic barriers and stuff that they have. So you have the real estate side that talks about, development of homes that people can live in, and also the creation of, offices and spaces that enhance the quality of life. So we're talking about community here when we talk about the real estate side, a place where you can live, work, and be yourself and fulfill purpose. On the other side of the SOA Rising strategy is also the agro side, where what we're looking to do is, come up in partnership. And I think this is very important so that people hear this right. in partnership with our, with communities that we operate in, with, the various groupings that we engage with at the government and the industry level, come up with specialized agro-processing zones and projects and plants that ensures that we retain up to 100% of the value that each crop or each commodity can achieve. That is our objective. And in achieving the objective as it relates to the agriculture side, we recognize that we're going to have to do it in conjunction with partners and in conjunction with other stakeholders. But the aim here is to increase the value add, because it's by increasing that value add that you can actually increase the competitiveness of a country. Let's start at that level. You bring it down to the business. That is how you can optimize whatever you're producing at the company level. At the individual and household level, that is how you raise standard of living and wages. So the impact is across the full board, from the national to the individual, to the household, to the business level. It affects all parts of those economic actors. So our whole objective is about developing efficient value chains in the real estate space and value chains in the agro space. So what I'm talking about the benefits of the soil rising system, and I'm focusing not on the real estate side, but more on the agro processing side. The strategy we're working with, and we already started this. So on the real estate side, we have a pilot in Nairobi, Kenya, and we also have a pilot on the agro side that we're trialing as well in that space, and we'll be looking to do the same here and working with our partners. But the overall aim is that those agro-processing projects or plants must ensure that there's increased value capture and retention within the local communities. We recognize that, depending on what kind of crop you're talking about, whether food crop or cash crop, different interventions will be needed. But the ultimate aim remains the same. It's about increasing the value capture and retention within local communities. And ultimately, where we have, small scale operators, we also want to increase their competitiveness within their local, regional, and if they want to play on the global market, we want to be able to increase their competitiveness as well. So I won't bore you too much with this, but this again is just showing all of what I've been talking about. So when it comes to the agro-processing zones or projects, so when we, in our development, and I'm trying not to go too much into that, but if we're Okay, so just picking up from where I broke up. So the soil rising strategy is about delivering efficient value chains within its ecosystem. And the way we look at engaging it, making sure that we have a view through the entire value chain. So whether we're talking about input suppliers, middle producers, intermediaries, or processors that need access to global, national, or regional markets, we want to be able to ensure that there's efficiency in all of that interaction through our trading platform and our, and our operations. And how do we do that, or how do we intend to do that? What is about providing, where there is a need for technical or technological inputs into those value chains, Soil Rising is able to engage on that front as well. We would also deliver those interventions through financial inputs where appropriate. A large part of commodities and finance and agricultural trading is around logistics as well. Logistics is a key element that ensures that, as we transform agricultural produce, whether the transformation is in form through processing, or if it is in time through storage, or it is in space through transportation, there's a need for efficiency across all of those elements. So what Soil Rising is looking to do is make sure that where local operators, lack the expertise or lack the know-how to address any one of those transformations, we can intervene in there. And that is how you capture value. All of the big commodity traders and agricultural, aggregators, everywhere in the world, they understand this thing. And they know that, as long as we can ensure that these guys don't have access to technology or inputs, all they would ever want to do is send us the raw material, and we would capture the entire value. So now that we know that, what we really want to do is work with partners on ground and make a change in all of those things. So our focus is, we focus on, for those following the presentation online, we focus on food crops.
Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your care. From the moment that I wake till I lay my...
Are not exhaustive. Well, I'm just giving you an indication. If you say, which areas are you interested in? In the livestock space, we want to understand and engage with operators in the poultry, goats and piggery side of things as well. And even when you talk about apiculture, so that's honey related products. When we can, those are commodities, those are agricultural produce that the value add, we lose out on it a lot. So what we really want to do is get into that space and work with you, to enhance the value that we're creating. I'll skip ahead on, there's a slide I had there that was going to show you the percentage value add by economic activity. And it's only in the food crop area. They can see. Okay, they can see on my body. Yeah, okay, perfect. It's only in the food crop area that we have some value add that is even above 10%. In the rest of what, agricultural produce, the value add by economic activity is, there's no point even mentioning these things. There's no area where, Uganda, with all the potential it has in the agriculture, there's a sense that, there's work that needs to be done. And kudos to the national government, with the NDP plan, there seems to be a very clear focus. But there's also a call to action that the government is putting out there, which is saying that, they need people, both Ugandan, both, East African people, national, private investors to come in and support this work that is being done. And that is really the area where we're coming. So I think I've painted the picture of where the economy is agriculture-wise. I've painted a picture of, the challenges and the potential and the various areas of intervention that tourism can come into with partners on ground. And I'm also giving hopefully a sense of stuff that needs to happen. So in closing, and before we start to take questions, I'll just end with a number. So these are, like I said, these are the different areas that we're looking to get into: commercial and mechanized farming, food processing. These are the areas you capture the value. The value add that is currently less than 10% on average across all in Uganda. This is how, when you do this at scale, this is how you start to capture that value. So food processing, packaging and distribution of agricultural produce, because for you to get to the packaging and distribution, both, well, let's say nationally, regionally, or globally, you need to have your certain standards of the quality parameters. And those are the different areas where you start to capture value at scale. So in closing, just very much in line with the government's NDP plan, of which we are very keen to support you. We already started this, as I mentioned, with the pilot project in Nairobi, Kenya, on looking at certain food crops. We're really calling on all stakeholders, and we recognize that it's a multi-agency approach that is needed. So we're calling on all stakeholders, we're calling on partners, and it was very good to hear the team talk. And we're also at another partner firm, potential partner yesterday as well, exploring what to do. And we would provide the expertise from the global side into what needs to be done. So it's really a call to action that to address the value chain challenges I've mentioned in the agri sector, there's work to do. We're already committed to that work. We're doing the pilots at the moment in Nairobi, and the plan is to also engage with partners here in Uganda to address those value chains. So thanks for your time, and I believe I've come to the end of my presentation. I will leave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Died, and very clear landscape that you have painted. I mean, it's very touching to look at this world of research that you have done across Uganda, and so much that you know about the country. We are privileged to be part of that. Apologies to our online audience. I know we had a glitch, but I'm hoping that you can hear us. You can kindly just confirm in the chat that you can hear us, and everything is okay at your end. Pastor Lady, there's a lot of yes, you say it's very insightful, and that's some of the comments that I can see in the chat. And we will then take to some questions. We had two presenters. We had Mr. Paul talk about his initiative in Cocoa in Mayuge that they're doing together with Dr. Grace Abalo. And he took us through where they started, where they are at now, and how they're engaging on the market, and the opportunities that they are taking advantage of. And we have had Pastor Died take us through the landscape, painting a picture of what we have actually in Uganda, taking us through the soil rice ecosystem and the target opportunities. And one thing that he ended up with is a call to action. The fact that we are all here as stakeholders, I believe that we are actually ready to act. So we'll take one of the questions possibly that came through earlier, which I will read out as we get other questions coming through. There was a question, I think this was from Mr. Paul, asking about whether cocoa can do well in other parts of the country. I know you're based in Mayuge, but where else can someone explore growing this cocoa, and what are some of the conditions that we need to look out for to ensure that it is as productive as what you actually have? Maybe I could check here if we have any other questions here in the room. And if you're online, please type your question in the chat, and we will be able to read it and direct it to whoever you want to respond. Yes, Mr. Talvazi, you have a question to ask? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor Maiden. I have a question about, you talked about community earning from their land. I think I am concerned about a fashion trend. Land is taking and the value doesn't go to them. It's something you mentioned, but I'm wondering how do we protect against that? How do we protect against losing their land and losing the value that comes from their land?
Okay, thank you. Any other one or so question in the room? Okay, as we get the questions coming, we will have Mr. Paul respond us and Mr. Lion will also make a response in regard to those questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Some indicated that most of my customers were relative, including those online. Well, cocoa is a tropical crop, and Uganda is just right on the equator. It's at the center of the tropics. So generally speaking, cocoa grows everywhere in Uganda. But because some places are a bit dry, I'm not talking about drought because when I was in the Cape, they told me there is nothing like a drought in Uganda, just a dry spell. So those areas which tend to have a dry spell are the ones which may not be so suitable for me. But luckily enough, the government is still putting in what it can. Even when we get very good investors, we can irrigate cocoa in areas that people thought we can't have. Otherwise, the whole of central Uganda here, very suitable. The whole of western Uganda. More recently in the north, where people thought cocoa had to grow, cocoa is growing very well in West Nile. We have promoters there who have proved it. So in Lusaka, definitely it grows. We are looking forward to telling the people that the best place from where cocoa is Lusaka. So first come to Lusaka, we flash it with cocoa because cocoa goes together with sugar. So it grows all of the state in there like that.
Thank you very much for that question. So I think we operate from a very mindset. So there's no concept of engaging with community to engage community. It's always going to be 100%, a partnership model, and how that partnership model will manifest, whether it's in the form of, joint ventures, whether it's, some kind of contract farming arrangement with local communities. It would always be about lifting people out of poverty, increasing living standards, providing employment, and adequate education, improving, the well-being and the access to to servicing for local communities. So for us, it's always going to be a partnership. And it will take different forms: joint ventures, contract farming arrangements, co-farming arrangements. It would always work in one of those models or the other, but that would always be the answer. It's not about, the challenge is, should you leave the status quo as it is? I think we're all in agreement that something is to change. Something is to change nationally, that's recognized. It's now about, we on the private side coming to the table and saying, we're ready to take on the action and make it change. And some, in some areas, some innovation is needed to ensure that things get done, and that's what we come with that, whether it's a technological innovation or non-technological innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naiden. Is there a hand here? Okay, yes, we have Monica. Please ask. As you come to ask a question, and then there's a question for Mr. Paul as well. How your engagement with the smallholder farmers And there was something that you mentioned about the efficient value chain. And something about that is to ensure that even the smallholder farmers are actually supported to leverage from the markets that bigger farmer is actually benefiting. But I think that's the essence of the effective value chain. So how are you doing it, especially with cocoa, given that the nature of conditions, what is required, how is your engagement with the smallholder farmers, and how can we get the smallholder farmers as well to contribute to the effective value chain? Yes, Monica, please ask, and we'll have.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about cocoa. I know that we have few plants in our Matoke gardens. I wanted to ask, in the event that even there is land shortage, can cocoa be intercropped with other crops so that it can be a cash crop, but then we are also increasing the food production? And then I also want to ask Pastor Lady, he mentioned that the majority of the people who are involved in farming are above 40. And probably they are in their retirement. And on look of things, it is stylish to say, I'm a farmer. But generally, it's like you are investing 70%. There is 72%, even at video level. You employ so many people, they are carrying little barrels and all everything, but then you are getting maybe even less than 20%. So it gives me an impression that the majority of the older people are taking agriculture as a hobby rather than a very big investment, which is an attitude thing. How do we turn this thing around so that we get real investment in agriculture and maximize production, and also even go into all the other things and have good products? Harvest is maximized, it is protected, we have good quality, rather than leaving it to any other person in the village to take care of your product. And then by the time you go back, it is affected by weevils and all those things, I think.
We will have Mr. Paul, and we'll have Naida to respond. Mr. Paul is responding to the issue of smallholder farmers and how they can contribute to the efficient value chain.
Okay. Thank you very much. The smallholder farmers, like I already mentioned, that most of our farmers are smallholders. We cannot run out of that. Their contribution is enormous. That's the most important, that if all smallholder farmers can have some few plants which they can manage very well, they will contribute to the production volumes we want for domestic and global markets. For our farmers, in the process of trying to contribute to the efficient value chain, there has no be quality. You know, when you think of quality, quality is said to be a start to finish, and they are at the very start of the value chain. So you cannot maintain quality the way we want it if the farmer has not really put in their effort. Quality is in terms of very big cocoa beans. Quality is in terms of beans being dried on very clean frames. Quality is in terms of beans not mixed with nano beans. All that is part of their function. So for us, we are now mobilizing farmers for cooperative groups, so that through those cooperative societies, they can be trained on what they need to understand, or reminded on why they need to maintain a certain level of quality, as well as increasing the volume of what they can produce. In the Ibale region, which has been previously known for farming, we now have some products for. who are just praying that if we could have every farmer just plant 200 plants or 50 for that matter, Uganda would definitely become a first world country. Not even middle income. So, in terms of this product, they can contribute to that efficient value chain because they have realized what comes out of that value chain. Previously, farmers need to know what comes out of cocoa. And we've been struggling with them to maintain the quality that is required by the global market, leave alone the domestic market, because they don't know what comes out of it. But when they begin consuming, that this is much better than maybe perhaps other villages put on their 40 trees. They now have the seed contribute without any harassment. So, madam, on issues of intercropping, student had not gone into the agronomy because Metaverse is there. She is our consultant on issues of agronomy, but nevertheless, we started together those basics. Now, cocoa grows well when it intercrops with banana, because in the initial 2 years or 3, it seriously needs to change. So people first plant big holes, first plant bananas, then put there the youngest. That is an automatic adorable for parcel. So, madam, you are welcome. Please just go back and expand your garden and build the value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. We'll get a response from Pastor Daide.
So if I understand the question correctly, what you were asking was, how do you take care of farmers? Is that paraphrasing? Okay, so that's a very loaded question. So, but I think just going on to what my previous speaker explained, the whole value chain starts with farmers at the very beginning. And I know there's this bit of secularity to it. It goes from farmers to aggregators to wholesalers to the end user. But I think you also get. So what's happened over the past years is we probably neglected the most important elements in that value chain. The efficient value chain we're talking about and the way we envision is one that ensures that all parts of the value chain retain the maximum value available for the activities they are taking. So whether through a combination of ensuring that farmers get the right training, developing platforms that ensure that information about seed variety and what inputs that they need is available, providing that exposure, the kind of quality assurance that they need to get their product global. Provide all of that within the value chain. And that ensures that, rather than, someone just producing and, letting go of the raw, the farmer, even when they do that, would ensure that they get the maximum return from doing that. The kind of innovations and products we're working on would also ensure that, because we have two sides of the real estate and the farming side of it. We want to create communities where even farmers that, at the very beginning of the chain can, participate in those real estate projects. So when we don't have it right now, but it's part of our blueprints, which makes sure that, a farmer that is tilling the land have an ambition to own the property that we build. How we do that, whether it's through a contributory scheme of some sort or some financial product that would allow them access to it, they would, be able to do that. So it's when we use the word efficient value chain, it's one that ensures that the farmer that is right at the beginning of the value chain is well catered for as things get, improved on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think there's quite a lot to learn. I don't know if we have any other questions. I know we have a number of people who are expressing they really needed to have been here and have not been able to be here. And someone is thinking, I need to be part of this. And the Inspire Synergy actually has that opportunity, and will be sharing with you how you can be part of a lot of this beyond just sitting here and listening and going back to continue with what you're doing. There's a lot of opportunity. I'll just ask Dr. Grace to come and highlight one of the things as we work at winding up. Our online audience, if there's still a question that you have to ask, please type it in there and we will be able to.
My question is that if someone, my simple question is that I've had from past and I've got my brother who those are what you've done. So my question is that what if someone was good before engagement with any of the two? That's number one. I think we'll come up through you. Then two, you talked about partnerships. And you really rightly say that Uganda has many smallholder farmers. So what kind of acreage in terms of what kind of size of farmers do you need that you need to begin with that can maybe scale engagement? Is that about 200 trees? Yes, that's okay. But if I am engaging in personal growth, things of mechanization and whatever, that's that I saw. We just not know what the minimum I should have to begin having a scale of profession to them.
So I think I'll to answer the question about contacts, I would let you be inspired maybe at the end of the presentation. That would be great. Because we is the that would be the way to and then in terms of how the partnership engagements, so I showed on one of the slides the kind of focus areas of crops we're interested in the first. Well, that's not an example in case you're farming something different. The typical arrangement of the way we work is want to engage with you just to understand what crop exactly it is. And we come in with, that expertise on the agri side, or the financial, non-financial, and technical side to really, drill down into what value can we have into what's the operation. So it has to be an operation that's already some level, and then we'll join with you to really drill down into, what value can we have into. Whether that's, and value would cover a number of, different areas, whether it's access to markets, or technical expertise, or, there are things, and we also want to be looking at things at, a kind of very broad level, because you might have the problem or the challenge, but when you really dig deep into it, it's not common to you. It's probably a challenge that a host of other people are addressing as well. As we're solving it, we'll be looking at how can we ensure that the community solution or the other communities that we're bringing in. So that's kind of the way we.
Last, Dr. Grace.
His name, but just read in my mind. Most of the things he highlighted were the very things I wanted to comment on, and one of them was actually access to market. Whereas we may have the expertise, we may have some little capital to start with. Market is usually a challenge. So I wanted to know from Dr. Light, yes, or Reverend. Okay, that's nice. I wanted to know from him in terms of the market. Actually, I also wanted to know, would we have side meeting? And I had asked him, Benjamin, about it. Can we have side meeting? Because whereas we didn't prepare so many things, but coming here now, we realize it's actually a broader thing than just focusing on one or two, as long as it features within the scope of what they're doing. So I really would love to hear if the side meeting can take place so that we would understand better and then be able to actually teach better. This was like more or less introductory to what we are doing at the moment. I'd like to thank you for this, and really thank you,
Thank you that you know what the farmers are facing. And the problems of farmers are common. Don't think it's only in Uganda. Wherever you go in the African continent, you will meet like scenarios because we are all characterized by smallholder farmers who are struggling with capital. And so when they produce, because they work in isolation, there's always a lack of market, yet the market exists. So thank you so much, and we love to hear more and discuss more and see going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think just like I was emphasizing, Inspire Synergy is open for us to reach out. We have Benjamin Marcelli. I'm sure he contacted most of you, and reach out to him and he will be able to support you fully. But also after this, we'll have some time of networking. Feel free to network, talk, and share some of what we really want to share first. I just wanted to emphasize that our product, this is a lot of interaction that goes on in the background. I know Inspire Synergy right now is running quite a number of working groups. And even us sitting here to talk about this, it's as a result of think tanks that are trying to figure out how do we become marketplace leaders, effective marketplace leaders. So here we are talking about accelerating diaspora partnerships. We have working groups that are focusing on building community, building a metaverse. It's quite a lot. So Benjamin Marcelli is just shared his contact for those who are online on the Zoom. You can see his contact there. He has shared his contact. Those of us who are here, you can still feel free to engage with him, and we'll be able to network and be able to learn a little bit more about what we do beyond what we've shared here. We are limited by time. Could go on and on and on and on. There's quite a lot to learn. And I think I want to bring this to a close by appreciating the team, Brother Shaye, Pastor Leiden, we have Pastor Carlton, now call him a city boy. One person will even get to the border and get here. I'm sure he knows it's there around now. Yeah, but thank you so much for taking your time. I think count the hours that we spent here. I know it will be very pricey for you. You really had to spend it doing a lot of the work that you do. Thank you so much for taking your time out and choosing to come physically to Uganda. We've seen you across the Zoom and all of that. Now we have you actually here. We are grateful. Thank you for choosing Uganda, and I hope you have found Uganda welcome. There are lots to learn and see, a beautiful country. Please come again and again. They will always be open to receive you and ready to learn. And one thing that we do hope, and something that we do promise, is that you will not find us where you have found us now. And I'm sure the audience here, those online will agree with me that we are going to actually take action. And just like the reason we are all here is because of Father above, I would request that we close in a word of prayer. I'd just like to invite Martin Mateo just to say as we close, and we'll be able to have a time of interaction after this. Our online audience, please join us as we say a prayer to close this call.
Let's pray. Father, we say thank you for the opportunity that you've given to us, Lord, and Lord. We thank you for the ideas, the plans that you have released to us, King of Glory. Our trust that whatever you give to us in a season, because you orchestrated it to come to pass. So we pray that you water this particular project and other plans that we have together, that every partnership shall surely bear fruit. We pray that no seed that has been sown today will go to waste. So we pray that you guard everything under the blood of Jesus, that you look back to you and say, Lord, on such a day as this, you spoke to us and you opened and you gave for us. So we thank you, King of Glory, and we bless you for the agriculture sector. And we pray that, Father, let your grace, your blessing rest upon this sector. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, and have a blessed evening. Thank you, our online audience, for sticking with us. And have a good evening if you're in Uganda, if you're away from the Uganda could be afternoon, it was in West Africa. But thank you so much for joining in. God bless you.